Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. We will do in today's summary of the Quran four surahs. Uh, Surah number 29, 30, 31, and 32. Surahs Al-Ankabut, Ar-Rum, Luqman, and Surah As-Sajdah. These surahs are the Meccan surahs of the fourth group of Quranic surahs, which have 9 surahs in all. 8 of them are Meccan. The first 4 we did yesterday, and the next 4 we are going to do today. These 4 surahs are divided into 2 pairs. The first 2 surahs, Surah Ankabut and Surah Ar-Rum, are a pair, and then Surah Luqman and Surah As-Sajdah form a pair. Quite apart from the subject, the theme that we find in most Quranic surah groups, the topic of warning handed out to those who were rejecting the message of the Almighty, that they're going to face dire consequences in this world as well as in the next world. And the good news that was given to the believers who were accompanying the Prophet, that they are going to succeed in this life as well as the next life. Quite apart from this theme, which you find is mentioned in most of the Quranic surah groups, what we find is that in this particular surah group of surahs, there is a very clear predominant theme of the affirmation of the prophets, the prophethood of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another important feature that we find in these 4 surahs is that, like in Surah Al-Baqarah and Al-Imran, in these 4 surahs too, the beginning is with the disjointed letters Alif Lam Mim. So these are 6 Quranic surahs that begin with Alif Lam Mim. 4 right at the beginning of the Quran, and 2 at the beginning of the Quran, and 4 from Surah 29 to Surah 32. So let's begin with Surah Al-Ankabut. Surah number 29. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alif Lam Mim. This is Surah Alif Lam Mim. As I've been mentioning, these huruf, these letters which are disjointed, they are the names given by the Almighty to these surahs. They do have a definite meaning. Those meanings are reflected in the theme, the message of the surah. Some of those meanings we understand, some we still don't understand. It's a subject matter of research which the Almighty has, call it, presented as a challenge for us to investigate and explore, thereby confirming that the Quran needs to be read with understanding and deep reflection. It's not a book that is to be just read for the purpose of reward, thawab. Ahasib an-nas, do these people think, an yutraku, that they are going to be just spared, left alone, an yaqulu, simply on saying amanna, that we believe, wa hum la yuftanun, and they are not going to be tested? Imagine this surah is a Meccan surah, and the Almighty is telling the companions of the Prophet, some of who it seems were a bit worried and concerned that the, probably the test that we're going through has gone a bit too far. Is it not enough? So the Almighty says that, do they think that they're going to be spared simply because they've said we have believed and they're not going to be tested? وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. We most certainly tested those who came before them. That is, the people who believed in the earlier messengers, who accompanied them. They were tested. فَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا. And most certainly God is going to make clear, evident, who are the ones who are truthful, who have rightfully claimed that they are believers. وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ. And most certainly He's going to make it clear who are the ones who are liars, who just made a statement, but they didn't mean it. Then we move on to verse 10, wherein the Almighty says about some such people, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ, and amongst people, مَنْ يَقُولُ, there are those who say, آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ, we believe in God. فَإِذَا أُوذِيَ فِي اللَّهِ, however, when they are tested, harmed in the way of, for the cause of God, جَعَلَ فِتْنَةَ النَّاسِ كَعَذَابِ اللَّهِ, they consider the trial coming to them through humans, كَعَذَابِ, as if it's God's punishment. وَلَئِنْ جَاءَ نَصْرٌ مِّن رَبِّكَ, however, when there comes some support, help from your God, some victory from your Creator, لَيَقُولُنَّ, these people say, إِنَّا كُنَّا مَعَكُمْ, we are with you. Are we not a part of you? أَوَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِعَالَمَ, is it not that God knows بِمَا فِي صُدُورِ الْعَالَمِينَ, what's there in the hearts of humans? So are they trying to deceive God? وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and most certainly God is going to make clear who are the ones who are truly believing. وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ, and most certainly He's going to make it evident who are the ones who are hypocrites. Then we move on to verse 40. This long jump is skipping the passage that is talking about some of the stories of the messengers briefly mentioned, whose stories we have already studied in the earlier surahs. And towards the end, the Almighty mentions in verse 80, فَكُلًّا أَخَذْنَا بِذَنْبِهِ, all these people who rejected the message of the messengers of God, أَخَذْنَا بِذَنْبِهِ, we seized them because of their sins, because of their evil deeds. They were actually punished because they rejected the messengers, but they rejected the messengers because they were evil people. No good, well-meaning, pious individual can reject the message of the messenger when it comes to him clearly. Well, if it doesn't come to him clearly, then it's the Almighty who's going to decide what exactly needs to be done about them. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ أَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِ حَاسِبًا, so some of them were those to whom we sent a storm of stones. It was a storm that caused them to be punished. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ أَخَذَتْهُ الصَّيْحَةُ, and among them were those who were seized by a blast. It was from the sky. There was this very loud noise that caused them to be destroyed. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ خَسَفْنَا بِهِ الْأَرْضِ, and among them were those whom we caused to be swallowed by the earth. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ أَغْرَقْنَا. And there were those who were drowned. وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيَظْلِمَهُمْ. It wasn't that God was unjust to them. وَلَكِنْ كَانُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ يَظْلِمُونَ. Instead, it were these people who themselves harmed their souls. They were unjust to themselves, the way they were causing evil. They were performing evil knowingly. The next verse 41 says, مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ. The example of the people who make allies, supporters other than God. They trust other supporters instead of God. كَمَثَلِ الْأَنْكَبُوتِ. Their example is that of the example of spider. اتَّخَذَ بَيْتًا. He makes a home. That is, he also has a home. وَإِنَّ أَوْهَنَ الْبُيُوتِ. However, the weakest of homes, لَبَيْتُ الْأَنْكَبُوتِ, is the home of the spider. لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. If they only knew. That is, they are under a false impression when they are relying upon deity, gods other than Allah the God, that they are protected, they have a support, although that support is absolutely of no value, like the home of a spider. Then we move on to verse 45, when the Almighty says that, these people, whether they are believing or not believing, O Prophet, your task is, Utlu ma uhiya ilayka min al-kitab. You read out to them what has been revealed to you from the book. That's what your job is. Waqim as-salat, and establish regular prayer. Be in contact with the Almighty. Remember Him. Do your job. Inna salata tanha anil fahshai wal munkar. This prayer that we have asked you to perform is a very profound way of connecting with God. Indeed, prayer prohibits tanha anil fahshai wal munkar, obscenity and other evils. So if you pray regularly, you get the privileged opportunity to stay away from immorality, obscenity, indecency, and other evils. Not in the sense necessarily that you're going to be forcibly stopped from doing these evils, but in the sense that you will do them if at all you fall into the trap sometime. And then you're going to be reminded by the prayers. So these 5 prayers a day are such a great blessing that because of these prayers, we are reminded every now and then that what we have been doing in the past was wrong. And each time after doing something wrong, we face the Almighty. In the prayer, we are reminded, admonished. And the likelihood is that we are going to leave those evils, or at least we're going to give it a good fight. Wala zikrullahi akbar. And this remembrance of God, being reminded about Him, is great. This is what you get in your prayer. Wallahu ya'lamu ma tasnaun. And God knows what you do. Then the next verse, the Almighty says, وَلَا تُجَادِلُوا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Don't argue and debate with the people of the book except in a good way, in a decent, polite, academic way. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْهُ. Except for those people who are unjust from amongst them. وَقُولُوا, and tell them, آمَنَّا بِالَّذِي أُنزِلَ إِلَيْنَا. We believe in what has been revealed to us. وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكُمْ. And what has been revealed to you. Wa ilahuna wa ilahukum wahid. And our God, our deity, and your God, your deity, ilahum wahid, is the same God. وَنَحْنُ لَهُ مُسْلِمُونَ. And we are submitting to him. We are the ones who have given ourselves in submission to him. I have no idea that even after reading this verse, there are some people who still insist that we should always use Allah for our creator. The Almighty says, tell the people of the book, our creator, our God, our deity, and your God are the same God. God is in English, what Allah is in Arabic, and now Allah and Khuda in Urdu. Anyway, verse 48, the Almighty says, وَمَا كُنْتَ تَتْلُو مِنْ قَبْلِهِ مِنْ كِتَابٍ. O Prophet, you were not somebody who used to read any book before this book. وَلَا تَخُطُّهُ بِيَمِينِكَ. Nor did you used to write with your hand. إِذَا لَارْتَابَ الْمُبْطِلُونَ. Had that been the case, there would have been some reason for people to doubt. Those who are rejecting, denying, they had a reason to doubt. In other words, the Prophet ﷺ was raised up in a way that he did not get training to read and write. So this became an important evidence in support of his claim to be the rightful, truthful messenger of God. Because, I mean, when somebody has not even been trained in the first 40 years of his life to read and write, and then comes up with a presentation as impressive and profound as the Quran, what could be the explanation except for the fact that it was coming from God? And then finally, the Quran mentions towards the end of the surah that وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا. And for those who strive in our way, لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. We most certainly are going to guide them towards our ways, open the doors of guidance for them. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And indeed, God is with those who do goodness in the right manner, in the best possible way. So those who strive for good, the muhsineen, are the ones for whom, when they strive, the Almighty opens the doors of guidance. Then we move on to Surah Ar-Rum, which partners with Surah Al-Ankabut to form a pair. The surah again starts with Alif Lam Mim. This is Surah Alif Lam Mim. غُلِبَتِ الرُّوم. The Romans have been defeated. في أدنى الأرض. In a land not very far. وَهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ غَلَبِهِمْ سَيَغْلِبُونَ. However, after having been defeated, they will again overcome. They will be victorious. في بضع سنين. And not very long from now, in a matter of few years, لِلَّهِ الْأَمْرُ. It's going to be God's command, min qablu wa min ba'd, before and now, afterwards. In both cases, it will happen because of God's command. He caused them to be defeated, and He's going to cause them to be victorious. وَيَوْمَئِذٍ يَفْرَحُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And on that day, the believers are going to be rejoicing. They'll be rejoicing for two reasons. One reason is that there was a reason for the believers to be emotionally attached to the Romans. They, being Christians, believed in one God. That was their announced formal religious understanding. While the Persians, who defeated them, were polytheists. So When this victory of the Persians, the news reached Mecca, the polytheists were rejoicing. They welcomed the news, and believers were disappointed. But the Almighty says that this is going to be short-lived. It's going to be very soon, uh, completely reversed, and the Byzantines, the Romans, are going to take over, and they're going to again in another battle be the victors. So on that day, the believers are going to be rejoicing. But it is said that they were rejoicing on that particular day when it happened, when the news came, also because of their victory at Badr. Binasrillah, it's going to happen by the will of Allah. It's going to be God's victory. Yansuru man yasha. He gives victory to whom he wills. Wahuwa al-Azizur Rahim, and he is exalted and merciful. We move on to uh, verse 21, where Surah Rum mentions a number of signs of the Almighty. This surah talks about the ayat, the signs of the Almighty that we find around us and within our lives very effectively, quite the same way as we find these signs mentioned in one passage in Surah An-Naml as well. Verse 21 says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, and amongst his signs, أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. It is arranged by the Almighty that He created for you from within your species, within your category, your partners, wives for husbands, husbands for wives. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, so that you find tranquility in them, you find peace and a calm atmosphere to live. فَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, and He placed between you affection and mercy. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ, indeed in it are signs, لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, for those people who think, ponder, and reflect. That is, how is it that in most cases, complete perfect strangers come together and they find affection, sympathy for each other, and are able to lead a lifetime together. Verse 24 says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, and also amongst his signs, يُرِيكُمُ الْبَرْقِ, is the fact that he shows you lightning, خَوْفًا وَطَمَعًا, causing within you fear as well as aspiration, hopes. وَيُنَزِّلُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً, and he sends down rain from the sky. فَيُحْيِي بِهِ الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا, then he brings to life the soil, the earth, after it was dead. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ, indeed in it are signs, لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ, for those who use their intellect, who use reason. Then in verse 30, the Almighty mentions about his religion, his message that he has sent to humans through his prophets, his messengers. He says, فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا, so now turn towards the religion of the Almighty, inclining towards truth, focusing on it. فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا, this is the religion of nature of God. That is, فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا, the Almighty designed humans in that mold, in that nature. That's what this religion appeals to. لا تبديل لخلق الله. God's creation, they don't change. They will not ever alter. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ, this is the true, correct, straight religion. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. However, Most people, they don't know. They don't want to know. Then we move on to verse 37, where the Almighty mentions, Avalam yarau, don't they see? Anna Allaha yabsutu rizqa liman yasha'u. That God, He extends provision for whom He wills. There are some people who get provisions, risk, sustenance, much more than what their needs are. وَيَقْدِرْ. And He is the one who restricts provisions for some others. Indeed, we do try, we do make our efforts, but the fact of the matter is that people don't get rewarded in the form of provisions exactly in accordance with their efforts and their abilities. It is the opportunities provided by the Almighty that play a very important, decisive role. Inna fi zalika la ayat. Indeed, in it are signs liqawmi yu'minun, for the people who really want to believe. Fa'at is al-qurba, therefore, and it's true that you are getting what you're getting from your Creator. It's His kindness and blessing. Fa'at is al-qurba haqqahu. Then give your poor relatives their share. Wal miskin, and the deprived people, wabna sabil, and the travelers. Travelers were also deprived people in those times. Zalika khairul lillazina yuriduna wajhallah. This is good, the right attitude approach adopted by those people who are looking for the pleasure of the Almighty. Mawlaika humul muflihun. And these are the people who are going to succeed. They're going to succeed most certainly in the next life. And if they are the companions of the messenger, a messenger of God, then they'll succeed in this life as well. Others could also succeed in this life, but the guarantee handed out by the Almighty is for the people who are accompanying the messengers. وَمَا أَتَيْتُم مِّن رِّبًا. What you give as a loan based on riba, interest to the poor people, لِيَرْبُوَ فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ, so that it increases in the wealth of others. فَلَا يَرْبُو عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. So be sure it doesn't increase with God, in the eyes of God. وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن زَكَاةٍ. However, what you give in zakat, in charity, without demanding any return, تُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ, simply looking to earn the pleasure of the Almighty, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُضْعِفُونَ. They are the people who are multiplying their wealth. They're multiplying it in the eyes of God and then in the next life. Then the Quran mentions in verse 41 that much of the troubles of this world are because of our own misdeeds. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر. Mischief, corruption has spread across throughout the land and the sea. بما كسبت أيدي الناس, because of what humans have earned, because of their deeds, misdeeds. This happens لِيُذِيقَهُمْ, so that He, God, should give them the taste of بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا, taste of some of the misdeeds that they performed. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. And this He does so that they return to the right ways. So we do evil things, and there are troubles that we face. Those troubles are there so that we understand that we are going wrong, and then we return to the Almighty. Then verse 52 mentions to the Prophet, who always used to be concerned as to why is it that people are not taking the message of the Almighty seriously? Why is it that they are ignoring such a clear message, which, if they're going to ignore, they will be taken to task. So it would worry the Prophet. So the Almighty says, فَإِنَّكَ لَا تُسْمِعُ الْمَوْتَى. O Prophet, you cannot make those people hear your message who are dead. That is, who are dead from inside. They are physically living, but morally, spiritually, they are gone. وَلَا تُسْمِعُ الصُّمَّ الدُّعَاء. Nor can you make a deaf listen to your call. إِذَا وَلَّوْا مُدْبِرِينَ. When they are turning their backs, ignoring and retreating. وَمَا أَنْتَ بِهَادِ الْعُمْيِ. And you cannot guide the one who is blind عَنْ ضَلَالَتِهِ. You cannot bring him out of his misguidance, his error. In tusme'u, you can only help, hear, listen. Illa man yu'minu. Only those people who would want to believe bi ayatina, in our signs, fahum muslimun. So when they will listen and believe, they will become obedient. Then we move on to verse 54, where the Almighty mentions that humans are strange. They don't learn from their own experiences. Human experience doesn't teach them anything. Allahu allazi khalaqakum. Is it not that God is the one who created you? Min dhafin. From weakness. You are very weak and vulnerable. Thumma ja'ala min ba'di dhafin quwwatan. Then he made after weakness strength. He gave you strength. And that is what causes you to be arrogant, overconfident. ثم جعل من بعد قوة ضعفا وشيبة. And then he made after strength, weakness, and old age. يخلق ما يشاء. He creates what he wills. وهو العليم القدير. And he is fully knowledgeable and has control over everything, competent. Towards the end of the surah, we find that the Almighty is saying that وَلَقَدْ ضَرَبْنَا لِلنَّاسِ فِي هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ مِنْ كُلِّ مَثَلٍ. We have mentioned in the Quran all kinds of examples, arguments, ways of guiding people. وَلَئِنْ جِئْتَهُمْ بِآيَةٍ. However, when you come to them with any sign, لَيَقُولُنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Those who are bent upon disbelieving, they would say, in antum illa mubtilun. You're just a liar. You're presenting something wrong, false. Kazalika, that is how yatba'u Allahu ala qulubil lazina la ya'lamun. God seals the hearts of those people who don't want to believe, who don't want to know. That is, don't despair. These people don't deserve to believe, don't deserve to know, because they have shown over and over again that they're not inclined, they don't want to understand. Fasbir, so, O Prophet, be patient, persevere. Inna wa'dallahi haqqun. Be sure that God's promise is true. It's going to happen. The promise that you and your companions are going to be having, they'll have victory in this life, and that they'll be successful in the next life. It's true, it's bound to happen. وَلَا يَسْتَخِفَنَّكَ الَّذِينَ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. So those who don't believe, who are not certain about the next life and God, let them not be able to weaken you. Keep doing your job and have trust in God. Then we move on to the next surah, Surah Luqman. Again, it begins with the same disjointed letters, Alif Lam Mim. This is Surah Alif Lam Mim. Tilka ayatul kitab al-hakim. These are the verses of a book of wisdom, a book that gives instructions, guidance based on wisdom. The Quran indeed is a book of wisdom. And that is what attracts people who really want to understand towards this message. Hudam wa rahmatan lil muhsinin. It's a guidance and a mercy for those who perform well, who do good deeds, and do them in the best possible manner. It's a guidance for them in this life, and it's going to turn out to be a mercy for them in the next life. Allazina yuqimuna salat. They are the ones who perform prayers, formal prayers regularly. Wa yu'tuna zakah, and they give zakat, charity regularly. Wa bil akhirati hum yuqinun, and they're convinced about the next life. Ulaika ala hudam min rabbihim. They are the ones who are on the path of guidance from their Lord. Ulaika humul muflihun. They are the ones who are going to be successful. So, I mean, these verses have a striking similarity with the beginning verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. And it's not just accidental that both surahs begin with Alif Lam Mim. Something that needs to be pondered over and reflected upon even more. Then we move on to verse 12 onwards, where the Almighty is mentioning the advice given by a father, wise father, to his son. The father was Luqman. He was a sage, a very wise man. And even though he was not a prophet, yet he was well known, even in the Arabian society, for his wisdom. So the Almighty is mentioning him uh, and referring to his teachings to let the polytheists of Makkah know that this Quran is giving teachings which are the same as were given by the wise Luqman, whom you also acknowledge as somebody who was on the right track. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةَ, and we gave Luqman wisdom, the same wisdom which was mentioned towards the beginning of this surah. Wisdom is what the Almighty gives to humans in their nature. It's something you can't see, it's hidden, but it's very clear. And whenever somebody talks with wisdom, it resonates. You feel as if, whatever is there within you has been mentioned by somebody else in the most clear and convincing way. So it was that wisdom which was the result of the pure nature of the man, Luqman, as well as his use of God-given intellect. Anishkur lillah. This wisdom that he had inclined him to conclude that you have to be grateful to your Creator. Being grateful is a part of human nature. And the fact that all that we have been provided with, if somebody uses his intellect properly, comes to the conclusion that it's all from our Creator, God the Almighty. So when somebody comes to that understanding, that conclusion, the end result would be that you will thank God, because we thank the one who is kind to us, gives us what we need, even though we had no right to demand from him. So everything that we are getting in this world is from God. And we didn't deserve it. We didn't do anything to deserve it. So the first and the foremost conclusion, result, outcome of a person having wisdom ought to be anishkur lillah, that you be thankful to your God. وَمَنْ يَشْكُرْ, whoever is thankful, فَإِنَّمَا يَشْكُرُ لِنَفْسِهِ, is absolutely clear that he is thankful only for his own good. وَمَنْ كَفَرَ, and whoever is ungrateful, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ, he should know that God is in no need of his gratefulness. And he's Hamid. He's being praised. Even if nobody praises him, he's worthy of being praised. Uh, that's, what the truth is, that when you are ungrateful, then you're doing it for your own harm. And kafara is ungrateful, and kafara is rejecting the truth, and the two go hand in hand. Only a person who is ungrateful to the Almighty is going to reject his message. And, the Almighty says that he doesn't need anybody's praise. He's being praised himself. That is naturally what he's doing. It's happening is in itself a praise for him. Then Quran says, وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ. Recall the time when Luqman said to his son, وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ, and he was instructing him, guiding him. And some people say, and probably it's correct, that this was the instruction, advice that he's giving him when it was about time for him to leave. So, passing on his wisdom and experience to his son. Ya bunayya la tushrik billah. Oh, my son, don't ascribe partners with God. Inna shirka la zulmun azim. Indeed, shirk, ascribing partners with God, is a great injustice. Injustice, zulm, is when you do not give somebody what he deserves. You're being unjust. God deserves to be praised, to be thanked, to be worshipped. Worship because he's the only creator, he's the only sustainer, he's the only one who can listen to our prayers and respond to them. And therefore, he's the only one who is ilah, worthy of being worshipped. If somebody concocts, creates some other god, false god, then it really is a great act of injustice, because it's only God, Allah, the creator, the sustainer, who deserves to be worshipped. Inna shirk ala zulmun azim. Indeed, shirk, ascribing partners with God, is great injustice. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ. And we instructed humans, guided them regarding their parents. That is, this guidance was given to them in their nature, and this guidance was given to them through the prophets as well. حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَحْنًا عَلَى وَحْنٍ. His mother carried him in her womb, in weakness upon weakness. وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ. And his weaning took 2 years. That is the contribution of a mother towards the child when it is in the process of coming to this world, and when at the very beginning of her life, the child is vulnerable, and it is taken care of by the parents, particularly by the mother. Anishkurli. So all this necessitates that you be thankful to me, wali and to your parents too. To me, because of everything that I have given you, including your parents, and then to your parents too, because they too have contributed to your welfare selflessly. Ilayya al-masir. Towards me is going to be your return. وَإِنْ جَاهَدَاكَ. However, if they strive with you, they try to force you, ala an tushrika, that you ascribe partners be with me. Ma laysa laka bihi ilm. Something for which you have got no knowledge, no evidence, no proof. فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا. Then don't follow them. فَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. And you be with them in this life, spend time with them in a good way. Accompany them with kindness. فَاتَّبِعْ سَبِيلَ مَنْ أَنَابَ إِلَيَّ. However, you follow the way of the one who is inclined towards me. ثُمَّ إِلَيَّ مَرْجِعُكُمْ. Then towards me is going to be your return. فَأُنَبِّئُكُمْ. Then I'll let you know بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ, about what you used to do. يَا بُنَيَّ. O my son, إِنَّهَا إِن تَكُ مِثْقَالَ حَبَّةٍ. Be sure that if there is a wrong, if there is a deed that you've performed, مِثْقَالَ حَبَّةٍ, good or bad, howsoever small, even of equivalent of the weight of a mustard seed, min khardalin, and it's somewhere in a rock, hidden, aw fis samawati aw fil ard, or in the heavens or the earth, no matter wherever it is, ya'ti bihallah. God is going to bring it forth on the day of judgment for accountability. In Allah Latifun Khabir, be sure that God is subtle and fully informed. Ya bunayya, O my son, aqimis salah, establish prayer, wa'mur bil ma'ruf, encourage, enjoin, promote what is good, wanha anil munkar, forbid and discourage people from doing what is evil, and wasbir ala ma sabak. Be patient on over what happens, what falls upon you. In nazalika min azmil umur, indeed, all these are the matters which require determination. Wala tusair khaddaka linnas, and don't turn your cheek towards people in contempt. Wala tamshi fil ardi maraha, and don't walk on earth arrogantly. Inna Allah la yuhibbu. God doesn't like kulla mukhtalin fakhur, people who are boastful or are in self-delusion, who think very highly of themselves. Waqsid fi mashika, and be moderate in your pace, in your walk. Waqdud min sautik, and keep your voice low. Inna ankara al-aswat, indeed, the most disagreeable voice, la sautul hamid, is the voice of donkeys. Then we move on to, after this advice of hikmah of Luqman to his son, towards the end of the surah, the Quran is saying, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, ittaqu rabbakum, fear your God. That is, behave in the right way and fear him. Wakhshaw yawman, and fear the day, la yajzi walidun am waladihi, when no father is going to come to the rescue of his son, his children, wala mawludun huwa jazin am walidihi shay'a, nor are going to be the children going to come to the rescue of their parents, their father at all. In nawadallahi haqqun, be sure that God's promise is absolutely true. فَلَا تَغُرَّنَّكُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا, and let not the worldly life deceive you, cause you to be fooled. وَلَا يَغُرَّنَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغَرُورِ, and let not the great deceiver, Satan, be able to deceive you. Inna Allah indahu al-musa. The day of judgment is going to come. It is only God who has the knowledge of the time of the hour. وَيُنَزِّلُ الْغَيْثِ. He is the one who causes rain to fall. وَيَعْلَمُ مَا فِي الْأَرْحَامِ. He knows what is in the wombs of mothers. وَمَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ مَاذَا تَكْسِبُ غَدًا. Nobody knows what he is going to do the next day. وَمَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ, and no human knows بِأَيِّ أَرْضٍ تَمُوتُ, which land is he going to die in. In Allah Alimun Khabir, indeed it is only God who is fully knowledgeable and fully informed. That is, he knows when the judgment day is going to come. There's so many things that you don't know, and yet you believe that they're going to happen. And therefore, this is true for the next life as well. Don't ask when this day of judgment would come uh, with a view to understand whether it's true or not. The truth of some happening is not based on whether the one informing you about it knows when it's going to happen. Well, if you want to accept it, it should be based on the arguments that lead you to believe that what is being presented is making sense. The next surah is Surah Sajdah. It begins with, again, Alif Lam Mim. This is Surah Alif Lam Mim. And this verse, second verse, is actually a beautiful explanation of what is mentioned towards the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah. There is call it a question that arises when you read Al-Baqarah and read Zalik al-Kitab la rayba fi. This is the book, there's no doubt about it. So what exactly is this doubt concerning? This second verse says, Tanzilul Kitab, the revelation of the book, this book, la rayba fi, there is no doubt about it, min Rabbil Alameen, is from the Lord of the all human beings. That is, there's this doubt that was talked of in Surah Al-Baqarah was regarding whether it's from God or not. So it says there's no doubt about the fact that it is from the Creator. Then we move on to verse 7, wherein the Almighty is talking about the manner the God arranged for us to come to this world. He said, God is very kind and He's mighty. Allazi ahsana kulla shayin. He's the one who made everything that He made in the most beautiful way. فَبَدَأَ خَلْقَ الْإِنسَانِ مِنْ طِينٍ, and He began the creation of man from clay. That's what the Quran keeps saying all along. It was mud, it was clay. And then ثُمَّ جَعَلَ نَسْلَهُ مِنْ سُلَالَةٍ مِّن مَاءٍ مَهِينٍ. Thereafter, He continued His progeny through the extract of a liquid disdained. That is, the process of procreation that is followed now is a process which started somewhere in the middle of the journey of the creation of humankind. Even after that, there was a process that continued to move forward. And then there came a time, that He perfected, proportioned him, وَنَفَخَ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِهِ, and breathed into him from His breath, from His soul. What it means, what does it mean? We're not sure. It's one of those verses which are metaphorical. But the end result was, وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ, and He made for you the ability to hear, the ability to see, and the ability to think and reflect. قَلِيلًا مَا تَشْكُرُونَ. Very little it is that you are grateful. That is, God created you after having made you, after having, given you a journey of evolution to pass through. You started from clay, mud, and then gradually moved on, evolved, and there came a time when the next phase of creation started, procreation through the mating of male and female. And this continued for a very long time. And then came a time when the Almighty decided to pick a pair, Adam and Eve, breathe into them his breath, and they become the thinking humans that we are. So the idea is that we should be thankful to him for the manner he created us, and he deserves our gratefulness. Then verse 15 mentions the fact that innama yu'minu bi ayatina. Those who truly believe in our verses, allazina iza zukkiru biha, they are the ones who, when they are reminded about our verses, kharru sujjadan, they prostrate uh, spontaneously, immediately. Sabbahu bihamdi rabbihim, and they praise their Lord, wahum la yastakbirun, and they're not arrogant. Their response is overwhelming. Tatajafa junubuhum anil madaji. They get up from their beds, yaduruna rabbahum, uh, invoking, supplicating their Lord, khawfan mataba, in fear as well as in hope, aspiration. They get up in the early part of the morning. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, and what we have given them in sustenance, they spend. They spend in his way. فَلَا تَعْلَمُ نَفْسٌ مَّا أُخْفِيَ لَهُمْ. So no human, no soul knows what has been hidden for them, min qurrati ayun, in the form of the rewards that are going to be comfort for their eyes. Jazaa'an bima kanu ya'malun. It is going to be a reward for the good deeds that they performed in their early life and the manner they were regularly, continuously loyal to their Creator. Verse 21 says, وَلَنُذِيقَنَّهُم مِّنَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَدْنَى دُونَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَكْبَرِ. As far as these people are concerned who are rejecting the truth, we will most certainly let them taste a nearer punishment before, short of the bigger punishment. That's what the Almighty continues to do in order to wake them up from their slumber. He continues to make them go through trials, tribulations, difficulties before the real trouble of the hereafter comes. He does it so that people, they wake up, they open their eyes, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, so that they return, they repent. And he says, now, وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ ذُكِّرَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ. Who can be more zalim, unjust, than the one who is reminded through the verses of his Lord, ثُمَّ أَعْرَضَ عَنْهَا, and then he ignores it. إِنَّا مِنَ الْمُجْرِمِينَ مُنْتَقِمُونَ. Most certainly, we are going to take revenge, may we retribute those who are criminals. Finally, the Quran says towards the end, verse 28, وَيَقُولُونَ مَتَى هَذَا الْفَتْحُ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. They say, when is the day would come, the conquest would come, conquest of the believers. If you're really truthful, قُل, say to them, يَوْمَ الْفَتْحِ, the day of conquest in this life and obviously the next life is going to come when لَا يَنْفَعُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِيمَانُهُم. Those who have disbelieved, their faith, if they're going to have faith on that day, is not going to benefit them. وَلَا هُمْ يُنْزَرُونَ. Nor are they going to get any further reprieve, chance to perform. فَأَعْرِضْ عَنْهُمْ. So Prophet, ignore them. وَانْتَظِرْ, and wait. إِنَّهُمْ مُنْتَظِرُونَ. They too are waiting for their fate. May the Almighty enable us to understand the Quran properly and to follow it to the best of our abilities.